So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the IT Experts Podcast, the only podcast to help ambitious IT and tech business owners increase their sales, profit and productivity. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to a really special edition of the IT Experts Podcast. Now, if you're listening to this on audio, you need to watch it on video as well on the YouTube channel, because today we're at the Video News Factory in Milton Keynes with John Allard, and we are going to have an amazing show where we're going to be explaining to you all about how to use video in your content marketing, how to use video in your website, in your brand building, and all the different elements there to help you through. So welcome to the show, John.
Hi, Ian.
So the reason that I wanted to talk to you today was I've been for the last three and a bit years now, I've been doing a lot of video. Been doing, for me, I personally like to watch videos rather than read or write. It's just something that I've always done. But I look back at my first video, and I will show it to you one day. But it was a very, very sad affair in my summer house, and I thought it was the best thing for my website, but it was actually quite horrific. But obviously they've evolved, and now today, we're sitting in a TV studio, and I wanted to just interview you so we can have a chat about video, about how it works with digital marketing, how the messaging comes across, and more importantly, this is an amazing set we've got set up here. Let the listeners understand, do we need this kind of setup? Can we do things a little bit cheaply, and kind of what your views are? So you're really experienced in this thing. Do you want to just explain to us a little bit about kind of who you are, what you do, and who you help?
Sure, Ian. First off, you don't actually need video for this type of interview. What you're doing works very well on audio. And I always say, if you've got a really bad picture and it's all crumbling, but you can hear the sound, it works. It can still work. That's why radio is still so fantastically popular. And in fact is expanding now. In fact, more business people listen to podcasts than watch video formats because it's more convenient. So the experience I've had is that we're in a whole new ball game, a whole new era that's evolved over the last 10 years. But it is allowing each and every brand to become a proper broadcaster. And I think it's finding organizations, and people like yourself that realize that you've got to put a programming schedule on, you've got to know your audience, and you've got to be out there regularly, because if you don't broadcast, whether it's video or podcasts, then your competitors will. And it really is as simple as that. If you've got listeners and viewers, you want to keep them and you want to grow them.
And it's engaging, isn't it, as well? Depending on, there's lots of different styles of videos. I'm sure we'll come on to that.
Sure.
But when you're buying from somebody, it's more of an engaging. Almost like you've got that connection because you can see them on the video. You can see kind of whether they're a cheeky little chap or whether they're quite serious or quite what the subject is. And video can be used for all the different things. So what do you actually do? What's the purpose of the Video News Factory? Give us a little bit of history on kind of where you've come over the last few years to where you are today.
Well, my story began out of frustration because,
don't they all?
like you, I came from the IT industry, so I'd spent well over 20 years in a whole variety of roles on both sides of the desk, both as an IT director and as a senior salesman. And I thought now's the time to strike out on my own and launch my own training and consulting business. In fact, it was an early form of what the IT experts were. Probably a good idea, but too ahead of its time, because really what I wanted to do was lots and lots of video content, and then retire to a sunny island somewhere in the Caribbean, and the business would look after itself, and I wouldn't have to go on the road and work hard. So the idea was I would be in the avant-garde and do video, but could I find video in a format that I could produce all of the courseware? At that time, it was almost impossible. Everywhere I went, you had two forms of videographer. There were the people that had gone to film school and made films, and they were really good, fantastic stuff, but it was time-consuming, complex, and of course expensive. And then you had the people that came from the BBC And the BBC had endless amounts of resources. Everything was big budget. You had multi-skilled teams. And again, everything took time and was high quality. And then I was seeing kids on YouTube doing really decent stuff, but in a simpler format. But I wanted that. And I gave up on trying to find videographers, because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford £500, £600, £700 for 5 minutes of video. It would make me look fabulous, but I go bankrupt. And then I remember waking up and realizing that maybe that's a bigger opportunity for me, and one I could help solve. Maybe there's an issue in marketing over video production. And I found a report from America which had surveyed 1,000 marketing directors. And guess what? They said, we've got the same problem. Video is far too complex for us. It just takes up too much bandwidth, and then it's also expensive as a result.
Sorry, go on.
So Karen.
No, so I was going to say, because with the evolution of the cameras on the mobile phones and everything like that, that's just made it so much more accessible, isn't it, for everybody now to either flick a camera up. But I mean, we were talking a little while ago about the sound. And making sure that the sound is one of the most important things.
Yeah, well, when I started my journey, we didn't have that. In fact, we recorded on tape. The idea
back in the day.
And we'd only got the beginnings of mobile phones with cameras. And I had to learn all of those things, and I had to learn what works, and I had to come up with a format for businesses that cut the crap out and made life as simple as possible. And one of those problems we had was that actually people themselves wouldn't turn up for filming. There'd be a crisis or a business opportunity.
Don't see it as important.
And if they did turn up, most of them couldn't present, were bloody awful. So we were filming people and making them look bad because they couldn't perform. So the very first success we had was actually taking them completely out of the equation and working like journalists, getting their story and getting a professional presentation done. And that's when the Video News Factory took off. So we've now been evolved now to do literally every form of video. But going back to your point is that you, one of the good guys, you actually had a go at doing it yourself. And what looks deceptively easy can turn out to be a bit of a headache.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah?
Not the easiest thing in the world.
So, you're looking at your rivals thinking, how do they get that lit so nicely, or the audio so crisp? Well, it's because somebody's learned how to do it. Now, there's a lot of stuff you can go and self-teach, but you have to ask yourself, if you're running a technology or IT company, are you going to become a top videographer? Because it's like learning the piano. I'd love to play the piano, and I can play a few basic tunes, but it takes a few years before you can start to entertain people with it.
And I think the thing that we're obviously here today in the studio with the green screen and everything, and looking at the amount of equipment that's in this room, really does make me think about all the years ago when I bought the green screen and some lights and other things. If I'd actually just invested in doing it properly, because we're working with yourselves and stuff, and we've got some other works going on with some events later on this month. It's not bank-breaking work,
No.
and getting it right. What would that actually have done to the reach and the engagement in terms of business generation and lead generation? And the amount of kit that you've got to get it right, as you sort of say, to get it right is absolutely critical. I mean, attention span as well nowadays is shrinking, isn't it? Depending on what platform you're on, depending on what either social media, whether it's email marketing, whether it be in a website. I mean, most people can't hold an attention for more than a couple of minutes, can they, on a video? And yet you've got some videos. There was one of the guys who was actually in my peer group who put a video on YouTube, and it was a really, really powerful, emotional video. It was about a particular challenge he had in his life, and I think it was about 19 minutes long, and it had 5.5 million views. He says a video can be as long as it needs to be, as long as it's interesting. And it's quite. Everyone will say, no, you want it. It's got to be under 5 minutes, or over 10 minutes, or 3 minutes, or whatever it is. It's almost a case of get to the point. What is it you need to say? And wrap it up nice and sort of quickly, because everyone's everyone's busy, aren't they? I mean, I know you do lots of different videos, from corporate videos to sort of kind of marketing email videos and marketing videos as well. What's the most common type of video that you're putting together at the moment? What's the kind of thing that you're doing most regularly?
Well, we're at both ends of the spectrum because we're doing increasing numbers of podcasts and television studio type interviews, and capturing events. But we're also doing a lot of shorter form videos, which are 10, 15, 20 seconds long for platforms like Instagram. So the thing about it is that video it's just another form of media.
Yeah.
And you could take printing. Printing comes in all shapes and sizes, from simple business cards through to 10-volume books. Video is exactly the same. So it depends on what you're doing with the video. If it's a very young audience and it's a natty computer fashion orientated message, you can probably get that out in about 10 to 15 seconds, and that's the amount of time people will get. And if it's an expensive piece of airtime you're buying on ITV, then you've only got 30 seconds anyway, and it has to be very high impact to compete. But for the market that you and I care about, because we do an awful lot around the technology space, it depends on the job that you've got to do. So, I mean, for example, we had a company in this morning that provides an engineering product, and we were looking at what it will take to do an instruction manual for the assembly of the equipment, and you can't do it in 15 seconds. There's a reason why somebody will watch it to the end, because they want to know how to build the equipment safely. So 5 minutes is about the target time that we've set. So we costed everything around that. If you're looking at other forms of discussion where it's educational, you're interviewing somebody about some really valuable lessons learned, then people will listen to it like a radio show, and they will give it longer. But there's a secret to all forms of video, which is to always create a hook. So a hook, if you just listen to the BBC and there's a piece of information they're about to give you on the latest trends in traffic, they'll open it with some amazing new statistics have come out. Find out in the next 10 minutes from the Transport Secretary what is going to change the habits of motorists in Nottinghamshire, whatever. They will ask an intriguing question, and that isn't a particularly good example, but essentially the hook is a contract between you and the viewer that you promise to deliver a payload to give them something powerful and interesting if you just stay with me for the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes.
It's the call to action, isn't it? And it's the same with all kind of marketing, whether it be...
It's not quite the call to action. The call to action is a different function. I think, this is about why bother? Why
listen to you?
It's like if you went on a sales call at an exhibition and you were meeting lots of senior executives and you were doing what they call speed dating. That the attitude there is, what's your point? Why do you exist, and what is it you? And you've got your short. So you have to build a contract with them in that time to maybe get an appointment to spend longer with you. And exactly the same thing, even in short videos, you can have a wow factor at the very beginning, and they're thinking, what the heck is going on here?
I've got to listen to this.
I've got to watch this and see what happens. So, the typical journalistic style of asking an intriguing or opening question that will fascinate, you'll hear that over and over, whether it's on Top Gear, whether it's on a good podcast, you hook them. Then you deliver the payload, and the payload has to...
value.
The value has to create an emotion. Okay? Because without emotion, you will not motivate someone to do anything. And if they're not motivated, then the call to action will fail. Because the call to action is, now you're motivated, do something about it.
And that's really, really powerful, because that's a really key point about if you don't spark that emotion, then you're going to struggle to get people to resonate with you and resonate with the message, etc., etc.
So let's just explore that, because in business, I'll ask you the question: what sort of things would you, if you were going into a complex new relationship with a person, what sort of emotions would you think would be powerful that would motivate a customer to do something?
Well, I mean, if a client was coming to me, one of the most powerful ones that I work with is about giving them the confidence that they can act in what they're going to do, and we're going to go through a structured program or structured way that they're then going to feel more confident, and then they'll make more decisions, and then they'll get more results because they deliver moving forward. So the emotion is around certainty. It's around getting them, clarity and understanding on what they're trying to do, rather than just say, yeah, we're going to do some stuff and then it's all going to work out in the end, because that won't resonate with them. They won't feel confident that they can do it. But a lot of the business owners that I meet and work with don't have that gut feeling that this is going to be all right at the beginning.
Yeah. So if you were doing a video about that, you'd be creating some empathy about the things that undermine their confidence, that they find mysterious or confusing, and you're giving them a sense of empowerment, a possibility of empowerment. Then you've got your call to action. So do you want to do something about it? Then come on the course, do this.
And you just give me a great idea for another piece of content. Thank you, John. Right, okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts then. So, why is video so important in marketing these days? What's the key thing of why is it gone up the rankings of recent months, and I guess recent months and recent years of importance in the whole marketing strategy?
Well, I think it's because it is the most powerful media for our senses. If you look at what we depend on, and unless we're stricken by losing our sight, it's what we see is the most powerful thing to affect our beliefs. Yeah. So I would say that when you hear something is one aspect, but when you see it, then that's another aspect, and that is the art of belief, and therefore video gives the possibility of making, if people are making judgments, of them coming to a positive judgment far earlier, because it becomes a reality in their mind.
And that's really interesting, because as you say, you connected two senses there, and I suppose you could even take those senses a little bit deeper in the fact that you can see, if someone's talking in the way they're talking, if we were just sitting here like this, kind of slumped over, not really giving a toss about what was going on, but we're sitting here and we're animated and the hands are going and you're kind of smiling, and you can see that there's that connection there. It does make it look very. I know you can get that come out in your voice over an audio, and that's why I wanted to make sure that we video the podcast. So if you're listening to this on audio, then you need to get over to YouTube and watch it, because you can see us clowning around in the real life.
Well, if I listen to somebody and they're intriguing on a radio broadcast, I often want to see what they look like, and I'll go to YouTube or
suss them out first,
Facebook just to find out more, because I'm intrigued. Because what happens is then you get a whole lot more information, and body language is one of those. I'm using it now. You can tell an awful lot about people by their non-verbal communications. It's the same things that we use in sales all the time. But viewers do the same.
And then that's how they connect, and that's how they trust. Then you move to the next stage of trust, which is like, okay, well, what's this all about, and how does this work, and how does the business work, and then they kind of move from there. And that's why it's so important, isn't it, that if you're going to use video, you get the right video with the right message for your company, values, and what it is that you're trying to, portray and sell and provide. Well,
there's often a debate over what's better, an animation or a person. And we're talking about different media, they have different jobs to do. An animation is great because you can do incredible things with animation. You can make the impossible happen. They're very neutral. As soon as you show me, you see that I'm a white, Caucasian, middle-aged guy. So immediately judgments fall into place. But you know, the other aspect is that when you're in a powerful position of influencing people, people buy from people.
Yeah.
And that's, again, one of the best things about video is that you can meet customers without them being with you, so that they get an idea. And one of our greatest successes in the very early days was working with a company where they got well over £500,000 worth of business in the first few months of doing video, because somebody who was commissioning a major project in a football ground saw the MD, liked the cut of his jib, the experience and the authority that he had, and he said, I would love you to come down and spec up what we're doing here. And they won a multi-million-pound contract in the end. It was one of the gifts that kept on giving. So, you know, we became lifelong friends as a producer for him. But the interesting thing was he already was using video. He'd already got his own green screen studio. He hadn't appeared in front of camera himself. He'd employed people to do stuff, and they hadn't got across the value,
the value, the power, and the passion.
Yeah.
Just let's just loop back on that a minute. When should we use on a website an animation as opposed to a video? You just said that the animation provides a bit less neutral, you know, less connection, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, I can have a guess. But, you know, when should we use an animation over a video on a website or on a piece of marketing material?
Okay, I think there are two applications. One is where you want to create a funky, lovable character.
Right.
And so, you know,
part of the brand in them.
Yeah, getting, you know, if you're an insurance company, having, you know, your cuddly dog or whatever animal of the day.
Other dogs are available.
You know, you know, so creating those characters on an economic budget using animation is possible. You know, you don't have to use CGI and get meerkats to speak Russian. So creating funky characters and a lovable brand in animation is great. You just need a decent voiceover artist to give it life, and that's an acting skill. But that's a very economic way to create friendly, funky brands. The second one is where you're dealing with the absorption of information using symbols.
Yep.
Because ever since we started drawing pictures on cave walls, we were using symbols. And humans understand icon symbols, and you know, and you can pick up on patterns of association and bring complex things into perspective very, very easily. And there are so many exciting formats. I mean, one of the ones that took off, and just to show you the application, but it was using the late Professor Hawkins' theories on black holes, and they had him narrate, but they had somebody do chalk drawings on a you know, and it was speeded up. Yeah. So this hand was drawing, and you got it. You really understood what was going on because you got this iconography going on. So you know, animation is really good for when you're selling technology, trying to get across.
So like explaining, if you're doing like an explainer video on how you'd particularly wire up this, you know, this server, or how the system would work, or
how this app works with the cloud, and how the customers interact with it. And you can paint that picture in one little scene and make it really easy for the people to assimilate the information.
But it wouldn't necessarily be used for brand building, or, you know, kind of building that confidence or anything like that. That's where you need a video.
It's a learning tool.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what are some of the mistakes that people make these days when they're doing video?
I think there's a long list. I mean, you know, we could spend all day.
Give us the top three then.
So I think, you know, the top three is not understanding the way that video content needs to be created for different audiences and different channels. And I've got one customer, we've done some fantastic things for him, and we're helping him really get to understand things. But he wants a video like the one we have on our website.
Right.
So we've got a very powerful sort of 45 seconds, everything we do, video. And he sells a healthcare solution. It's a lifestyle change program. And I keep on telling him that just won't work for you.
Why would that not work for him then?
Because with what we're doing, the video is designed to give people very short blasts of powerful examples of what we've done, so they see
making that impact.
The whole point of it is, wow, I can get all this from one supplier, and they really know their stuff. Now, you're telling a story, and his product, the story of that, is all about changing people's lives.
Yeah.
So it could be that a hand-drawn animation of somebody's life being changed by being on the program is a better way. But to just simply copy somebody else's video and think that will work in your industry or with your products, and you see a lot of that, people just saying, I want one like that. And you've got to think about the job you're trying to make it do, the audience, how much you can spend on it as well, because budget is an issue. Of course, you can try, and another common mistake is you can try the DIY approach. Now, we would absolutely encourage companies, because going back to the point earlier is that if you've got an audience, you've got to make lots of content. Well, one of the cheapest ways to do that is to learn how to do your own filming.
Yeah.
And if you can do a bit of editing, all well and good. But the learning of how to film properly entails understanding lots of aspects, particularly audio. So a common mistake is that they may well have lit the subject properly, but you can't hear what they're saying. And that's down to just understanding the array of options on microphones. Not monitoring stuff as well. So you should be monitoring stuff as you're filming it, because you often do, you've got one opportunity to get a customer, and then you get back to the shop and you find
it's not right.
Yeah, something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Some light hit the lens and it's ruined it. So those are common mistakes.
Those are and that's the that's the important thing. I think I've done that before, where I've shot a whole video series or a good couple of videos and realised the bloody microphone wasn't plugged in, and it's just crikey, but if you'd had someone else there helping you out, or just double checking to make sure everything's in place, then you've got that covered off. So
sure.
So that's good. Okay, so what are some of the things that that people need to do to get it right? We've talked about the whole animation thing. We've talked about how you resonate and how you create empathy and feeling and things like that. But what are some of the, if you had a new customer walk through the door, what sort of process would you take them through to say, right, this is what we're going to do, and this is why we're going to do it, to get you that first website on your first video on your website? Sorry.
Well, obviously the website might well be the best place to do it, but we work in a very similar way to yourself, in that we would first of all take an audit of how things are currently operating, what's good and what's not so good. So we just had a new customer come on board that sells second-hand cars to a particular market, and so we had a meeting with them, and we just looked at the website, where the videos might play a role. More importantly, we looked at the overall objectives, and they were getting a lot of their business from third parties, and they were having to pay commissions, and they wanted to get more video, more leads from videos, not just on their website but in other departments. So the first thing we really need to do, once we'd done the audit and realised where they were and their level of experience and what the business objectives were, was to come up with a content strategy, and one that was sustainable. So there are some obvious things that every company needs. They need an elevator pitch.
Yep.
Okay, so we're doing a 59-second elevator pitch. Why 59 seconds? Because we can cut that into something which will work on Instagram, which has a 59-second limit, and 59 seconds to get exactly what this dealership offers to their target market is more than enough. Second thing, we just wanted to make the brand exciting. At the moment, they've just got bland headers, and those headers are on their Facebook channel, on their website, and you can get these moving backgrounds. So when we're doing the filming of the elevator pitch, we're going to cut them one of those so they look nice, like a nice, shiny, modern, and some of the key sales messages coming up. And then thirdly, we did some marketing assessment, and we could do this with any company, but we looked at what were their priorities. And in this case, they had certain vehicles, Mercedes A-Class, BMW 1 and 3 Series, etc. So we made sure that we filmed those beautifully so that we could do little short 15-second, are you looking for a Mercedes A-Class, got CCJs, contact us now, this car could be yours. So we were planting stuff to the target audience, top needs. And then finally, we looked at the opportunities to do some development of their salespeople and put a very simple scheme. I mean, obviously salespeople are motivated by getting lots more business.
Yep.
But the best time, as you know, to sell to somebody or to get them to do something is when they've just bought. So we've designed a competition, and the MD's backed this now, where the salespeople will go up to someone who's just bought a car and say, would you like to enter our free prize draw? You can earn £100 worth of fuel vouchers if you're the lucky winner of the month. All you need to do is give us a few seconds of why you're happy with buying your car from us. Testimonial. We'll send you a thank you email, and then you need to share it to as many people, and the person with the most shares of the month wins the vouchers. Now, that's going to work because we know exactly the audience we're going for. When those audience come in and buy a car, we've set a set of goals and motives that they will easily buy into. That will then get them to proliferate good news, videos, clips out to their peer group, which hopefully will be exactly the same people.
And there's nothing better than a happy customer to go and spread the word about how great you're doing, what you work, you know.
Yeah.
The work that
so going back to your original question, where do you start? You sort of do your audit, you do your analysis of the business objectives, and then you put a content strategy together. Most important, you make it integrated, because everything that we do touches on everything else they're already doing. It touches on their CRM, it touches on their email marketing, it touches on their Facebook pages, it touches on their Instagram. So you try and make sure everything is pulling together and aligned, and that when we cut a video, it goes out into all the right places simultaneously.
So when you say integrated, what do you mean? Do you mean integrated within the business plan or within the marketing plan? Because this is just, I mean, it's, you know, the one thing that I'm pulling out of this is that a video is no different than a piece of paper. Yeah. Right? They're different forms. Yeah, different forms, different shapes, different sizes, different lengths. So it's just a different, you know, it's a different way of getting things out there. And I have a lot of conversations with prospects and, you know, now clients who have been to a marketing company, and the marketing company said, yeah, we're going to do this, 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 this and this. But they haven't gone back and done the audit. They haven't even realised and understood what the actual business wanted to do and its purpose point of view. So the video, the piece of paper, must sit within a marketing plan, and the marketing plan must sit within the business growth plan.
Hallelujah.
So, you know,
I'm preaching to the converter.
High five. But I just wanted to make sure we pulled that out, because people don't align these things together, and they'll go off and they'll go and do a load of videos. And I'm doing some videos at the moment, which is a 60-second sandbox. We're putting them out on Instagram, and I'm being very, very careful about not going full out, because I haven't quite got my Instagram strategy tidied up yet at this date of recording this podcast. But when I do, I want to know that it's going to hit the right target market, it's going to give them value, and when they're ready, they'll give me a call. But it will line up with the whole marketing plan for the business. And if you're not lining it up with the marketing plan, you've got to have that marketing plan, and then that lines with your growth plan, because if you get a load of leads and you haven't got the right people, or you haven't got the right strategy or 100%. Sales force, you're just going to end up in 100%. Overwhelming.
You only need one marketing plan. You only need one content plan. You know, you only need one sales strategy. And the more you think about that integration, the more effective it's going to be, the lower costing it's going to be. So, you know, when you're working with a team like the Video News Factory or any decent media producer, it's rather like when you look at the BBC, because the BBC is doing on a grander scale, the same thing.
Yeah.
So they have their programming plan for spring.
Yeah.
And then somebody will appear on Radio 2 doing a plug for the program. You'll see little mini adverts going out. There'll be something happening on the iPlayer, and there'll be a theme running through. So, you know, businesses can do the same. They can look at their 4 quarters of the year. They can look at the seasonality. They can look at what events they're running, because those might be part of the marketing plan. But there may also, if you're integrating, be a great opportunity to do video. Because at an event, of course, you can get your customers there, your VIPs, you can do demos, you can live stream, you can do podcasts.
Brilliant.
You know, that's integration.
And now it's time for the Innovator Success Quickfire Round.
Okay, now we've got the quick fire round, the Innovator Success quick fire round. So we've got 3 quick questions. Normally what's happened here, I ask the question, then we dive into it, so it's not a quick fire round. But
It's
John,
okay, I've got my bulletproof
you've got your
vest on.
bulletproof
Yeah.
vest on. So
Fine.
if you were to bottle one part of your business journey, if you've got this great thing that you've done while growing up the business to getting yourself where you are today, what would that one be that we can share with the listeners?
I would say it is to start with an agile mentality. That in business school they tell you all the time, you've got to have a plan, you've got to do this, and it's just like going into business, you immediately go into battle with lots of other businesses.
Tell me about it.
What they say in war, the minute you go into battle, the plan falls apart.
Yeah.
So the one success factor, I think, is to have plan B, plan C, have flexibility, agility. You know, sometimes a disaster can be an opportunity if you flick it round, and just keep that feedback loop running.
And I think that's a great point. And I just want to add on to that is that when you have a business plan, and the ones that we use with the masterminds and with my client, we have the structure is very rigid in terms of 1 year, 3 month, monthly, you know, daily checkpoints. So that's your structure of the plan. What goes into that plan is the bit that can move, but don't move the format, don't move the structure. So make sure you have your regular checkpoints. Make sure you are holding your teams to account and doing all those things. How you're doing and what you're doing to them can change.
Yeah.
But don't all of a sudden, you know, if it doesn't work, don't rip the whole plan up, because the structure of the plan is the important bit. What you put in it is the bit that you need to be agile and changing with. So that's a great point there. Okay, so what was your biggest learning point or regret over your experience that you can help listeners out not to repeat a howling mistake that's potentially you wouldn't mind admitting on air?
I've had, I think, some really important lessons over partnerships.
Okay.
And I think when you're a small business, keep partnerships going. The best partnerships have been the ones where we've maintained each other's integrity. The worst ones have been where somebody has come up and made you a fantastic proposition and suggested that you create a joint venture company. And I actually think what happens, and I've found so many business people who've come up to me and had exactly the same experience. If you're really good and you create a valuable business, you then get people, vultures, coming in who they're almost like confidence tricksters. And they offer you the chance to scale up 4 or 5 times, and if we can just do this together. And really, when you get into working with them, you find that they're lazy, they don't put the investment in, either time or money, that they promised, and you end up with them defrauding you. And it sounds dramatic, but I would list not just a handful, but dozens of successful businesses who've had the same experience. So it's better to fly solo, but in formation. So if you can find, like we're doing, we're 2 complementary businesses, and I like that. Those are the relationships that have lasted the time and have been mutually beneficial. But don't lack confidence in yourself when somebody with about powerful something that they think, oh, if we did this together, then we can all be millionaires.
You're talking to me now,
Rubbish.
and I've heard those stories, and
it's a con trick, and you know, and what you've got to do is just talk to someone like me or you, and say, no, just take stock here, because what you've got is good on its own, and you can do this on your own, and you can scale up on your own, and don't give away the crown jewels to someone.
Goes back to the first thing we said about having confidence, having that confidence in yourself that you're going to deliver a great world-class product, service or solution to the client, and you're going to be the best person because of X, Y and Z. The only downfall you've got is if you don't bloody well tell them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, that confidence thing is part of the cycle of being in a business. It's a very lonely job. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it can be.
You've only got the dog and the wife to.
Yeah.
And I don't put them in the same category else I get shot. But
yes, we need to be very careful on
just
that.
Your family are your best advisors generally. Okay,
that's great. Really, really key points there, John. Okay, last question. What is your favourite app on your phone and why?
My favourite app at the moment is LibreView, and it is part of my lifestyle change.
Oh yes,
I've been running, I think, hard at business with the wrong Thatcherite business principles. So I was a child of the Thatcher era. Okay, you know, like it or loathe it, we all adopted Japanese-style workaholism and a little bit of alcoholism as well. We thought just taking a tot of whiskey at night would help us, you know, and we could manage on 4 hours sleep and, you know, eat badly and whatever. And I was doing actually a television and video series with a new client who was into this lifestyle thing, and he persuaded me to go on this course. And you know, we're talking about seeing is believing in one of the earlier video conversations. What this does is let me see on my app what is going on inside my body in terms of if I pop. You
showed me that last time. It's amazing.
And it's amazing.
What's it called again?
It's LibreView.
LibreView.
And it's used mainly by diabetics, but here it's being used on a sort of 8-week program to change my lifestyle. And you know, now I really do understand when I have that slice of toast what's happening. You know.
Well, that's brilliant.
It's changing.
You've got some great results on that, so that's brilliant. Okay, so just wrapping that up, John, we've covered an awful lot of ground here, from how to start off in video, what we need to do, how we align it with the marketing plan, you know, animations and all those kind of good things. And hopefully we've given some great value out there to our clients. Do you want to our listeners, sorry, our clients, do you want to just give us a quick rundown on how people can get in contact with you, if there's anything that they can offer in terms of what you do as an introductory offers or anything like that?
My call to action.
Your call to action.
Okay. We are the best kept secret in Milton Keynes.
You are. I totally agree with that.
And we kind of are successful because of that, I think, in some ways. We pick up an awful lot of business through partners, resellers, agents. So if there are people out there that are struggling with clients getting on board with video, so they may have a marketing role, a consultant or whatever, those are great people, and we work a proper sort of partnership with them. There's a mutual reward. The other thing about it is that we offer a very low entry to experience what it's like to work with us, and that includes free use of the studio. All people have to do, if they mention the Innovate to Success program or IT Experts, we will just give them the studio for half a day or so, and they can make as many videos. I will give them some personal coaching if they want to do their own presenting, and we have some fun, but we can also, in that time, we can create maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 videos. The cost would simply be to hire the cameraman and to pay for a bit of editing. So typically the costs are going to be sub £100 for short videos.
And that's crazy, because the quality is just amazing.
Yeah, and you know, if you use that productively, you can work a strategy to use that time with us to do an about us, what we do, case studies, demos. So you could do a whole raft of things in that time. And that's a good way to start.
No, that's brilliant. And I will be mentioning that to my mastermind
Yeah.
crowd that we're meeting on Wednesday, because they're all talking about how do we do this, how do we do that. So
Yeah.
now we know how to do that. So what we'll do is we'll put all your details and the contact numbers and everything in the show notes so people can see that and get in contact directly with yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is it for me for the end of this week. So thank you very much to John for helping me out with the podcast today, and it's been a great experience. I'm going to be in this studio many more times, I know that. So I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'm going to catch up with you on the next one. You look after yourself. Thanks, John. Cheers.
So thanks very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, then please remember to subscribe, rate and review. I'd really appreciate that. And also check the show notes out for all the latest developments at the IT Experts Growth Academy. If we haven't already, then let's connect on LinkedIn, YouTube and over at our website at innovate2success.com. Until next time, you look after yourself and I'll catch up with you soon.